stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have all board members present except for Tammy West and Barbara Lundeen. Tracy is joining us from Houston via FaceTime again, so we're happy to have her. We have, first off, I'd like to say happy birthday to Mr. Hires.
Hey,
Thank you.
He had nothing better to do on his birthday than come spend the evening with us, so. We need a motion to adopt the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report. You might notice on the consent agenda, which is item 9, letter D, the only thing changed there is instead of the grant being awarded to the high school, it's to the district.
Correct.
I'll make a motion, we accept the agenda with the amended personnel report and the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeff and a second by Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've got 5-0. And next up, we have approval of bills. Ryan, were you able to look
Yeah.
those over?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Brian. All in favor? 5-0. Did you approve? Okay. 5-0 on the approval of bills. This month, we have no special presentations. We have, next up, the Stuco reports. And first up, we have Leah Stein from Dodge City High School.
And Leah's awards just keep rolling in.
Yes, they do.
Two-time
Thank you.
WAC Tennis Player of the Year, so
Yeah, it's been a great
congratulations.
season. So thank you. So last time at the meeting, I mentioned that we were going to host the Regional Student Council Conference. So we had that on September 27th at the Civic Center, and we had over 700 people. So that includes students and sponsors and student councils throughout the region. So we had some middle schoolers and some high schools along with their sponsors. And we had a former Miss Kansas, Adrienne Belinsky, was the speaker, so we heard a great message from her, and then we also got to do a couple of fun activities. So that was a great day, and then we were asked to host again next year. So that's also a wonderful opportunity to bring in some students and get some stuff going in Dodge City.
Very good.
Next thing we have is class leadership. So we take some students from student council and then other leaders throughout the school, and they, along with students from Scott City and Ness City, go and they listen to a speaker and then also get to do some building activities and everything. The theme for this year is they're working on building intentional leadership and building trust and also having a growth mindset. So they'll be at Scott City on October 18th, and then we host class leadership here on December 6th, and then January 17th, it's at Ness City. So there's 3 sessions. And lastly, on October 31st, which is Halloween, we'll be having a pumpkin carving contest in our library. So we're kind of getting that together and getting some prizes and all the details and everything worked out for that. So that's all I have for you this evening. Do you all have any questions or?
Pumpkin carving in the library?
Yeah, so you bring your pumpkin and we'll have some prizes and see who has the best one.
Okay,
Yep, that's
good.
everything.
you bet.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Efren Martinez from Comanche Middle School.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas.
Mi nombre es Efren Martinez y yo soy presidente de Comanche Middle School. Well, if you guys don't know that, I said in Spanish and I said, "Good evening, my name is Efren Martinez and I am the president of Comanche Middle School." Last Friday, we had a pep assembly to kick off Spirit Week. This year's Spirit Week is as followed. Monday is Lazy Day, which means we wear sweats to school. Tuesday is Twin Tuesday, which is where you and your friend have to look exactly alike. Wednesday is Mathlete versus Athletes. Thursday is Color War, which a grade has to have a specific color and you have to wear as much color as possible. Like 8th grade is white, 7th grade is black, and 6th grade is blue. There will be a Best Dressed Award given out on Friday. The food drive, this month is the food drive for the Monorail House. There are a collection box labeled by team outside the auditorium. We are collecting food items such as canned food, mac and cheese, etc. Volleyball, the eighth grade volleyball teams took second at the WAC League tournament on Saturday. Cross country, the cross country eighth grade team took second at the league's meet on Saturday. Wrestling and girls basketball starts next week. We are starting to plan our first ever school dance. Art club is planning to go to Hayes for an art exhibit. David Barber spoke to us. What is self-worthy? It doesn't matter what's on the outside. It matters what's in the inside, because in the inside, it could be very useful. Our after-school program has started and has a wait list. It ends at 4:30 and helps kids with their homework and introduce them to science and math activities, Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Efren. And finally, we have Anthony Valente from Dodge City Middle School.
Good evening. I am Anthony Valente, the DCMS Student Council President. Since September was Suicide Prevention Month and October is Bullying Prevention Awareness Month, we have had the privilege of having two speakers come in and talk with the students. Richard Falcon from Compass Behavioral Health talked to each grade about suicide. We learned about depression and ways to prevent becoming depressed. One way to relieve stress and feel better is to exercise. He also told us the story about how the yellow ribbon got started when students took action to help kids after a teen's suicide. Joe Coles was the speaker that came to talk about bullying. Did you know that 160,000 kids are afraid to go to school each day? That is a major problem. DCMS is stepping up to try and keep our school as safe as possible. The first thing that happened that we created was a Zapper code with information on bullying. The code was given out to the teachers to share with the students. All students also took a survey on bullying. With the help of the SRO officer, two 7th grade students stepped up with an idea for a tolerance campaign. They would like to make posters and a video to promote tolerance in our school. National Junior Honor Society was given the opportunity to go to Boot Hill and learn about the waterway exhibit. Some of the topics they learned about were aquifers, water usage, and the Mexican village. National Junior Honor Society students are being given the opportunity to perform community service by helping with the exhibit on the weekends. Stuco is preparing for Red Ribbon Week, Spirit Week, and our first dance. Also, the officers got to participate in the Student Leadership Conference hosted by the Dodge City High School. We were able to experience the power that setting goals can have on your life by listening to Adrienne Belinsky share her personal story of successes and setbacks. Her life faced many challenges, and she had to make the choice to set goal and stay positive to see the goals become a reality. STEM is back at DCMS. Students will be experiencing STEM activities during their science classes. The stations will include Can You Hear the Number?, Moving Molecules, Capillary Action, Zoom, and What Do Engineers Do? Then, on October 10th, there will be a STEM family night where the whole family can come and engage in 12 different hands-on activities. Any questions?
Anthony, what's a Zapper code?
The Zapper code, we have this new app called the Zapper, and the Zapper code, you can scan it with the Zapper app, and it shows a various amount of activities that you can do on it.
Okay.
How do you think the session on bullying was received among the kids? I mean, talking in the hall and stuff about it.
I'm pretty sure it was received well. I haven't seen much bullying at the school, and yeah, it really impacted the students at DCMS.
Good.
You bet.
Is that similar to the Hero Day that the high school has?
I'm not sure what the Hero Day is.
Oh, it's okay. Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony.
Recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this time, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you'd like to address the board, please approach the podium now. Okay, we'll move on then. Next up, we have the consent agenda. And before we make a motion on that, I'd just like to point out item E. Hutton Construction made a very generous donation so that our high school men's soccer program could attend. Is that a professional soccer
That's
game?
Kansas City's professional team.
Is that, yeah. I
Sporting
think,
KC.
yeah, I think that's really awesome, and I appreciate them doing that for our young men. They are having another great season, so that's great that they have that opportunity to do that. So thank you, Hutton Construction.
That's it, yeah, it's excellent. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second?
Motion by Ryan and a second by Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. All right, new business. We have curriculum and instruction. Looks like it's Glenn and Ray, or just Glenn? Oh, no, we got new teacher induction program.
Yeah, I'm healthy. We are very pleased to be here. Oh, of course, I'm next. Very pleased to be here this evening to talk with you all about the induction program.
Thank you.
And the induction program is what has in the past been called the mentoring program.
Thank you.
Tonight, we have the elementary facilitator, Maria Ortiz-Smith, behind me. Amy Herder is the high school facilitator. She's passing out the papers. And I'm Robin Adams, the middle school facilitator. There's your cursor. Click. That's why I didn't do it. Stick it. Here. Okay, go ahead. The next one. Okay. The induction program is a KSDE-approved program. It provides professional learning and support for first-year teachers and also for teachers that are new to the district. It's been called the mentoring program, but Maria, did a lot of research, and she's found that mentoring focuses on survival and support. And even though our new teachers are in survival mode, we're there to support them. It's really more than that. A mentoring program relies on a single mentor, treats mentoring as an isolated phase, and reacts to whatever arises. And we do all of that, but there's more. The reason we come up with induction is that induction program, it promotes professional and career learning, not just, for the first year that they're here. It provides multiple support people and administrators. It's a lifelong professional development design with extensive, comprehensive, and sustained program. Professional learning and mentoring support provides teachers with skills, knowledge, and a mindset of positivity to meet the needs of our diverse learners so that all students will benefit.
So we've kind of structured our induction program under 3 umbrellas. It's for our first year teachers and new teachers to Dodge City. So they may be veterans, they may have taught many years, but are new to Dodge City. We feel like it's important to get them acclimated here. So we have 3 areas that we work on. We build the program so it best meets their needs. We provide them ample support, and then we want to sustain them over time so that we can retain those teachers here. So the things that we've built into our program is a mentor guidebook, so that we give all the mentors and all of the new teachers a copy of the guidebook that has all of the things that are required of them. In service to familiarize new teachers with district-adopted, standards-based curriculum and strategies. So we do 3 days of new teacher orientation before school starts, and then we have a lot of people come in and work with those new teachers. We have time that they can work with their mentors and their administrators to help them feel really welcome at Dodge City. We provide mini sessions that provide differentiated focused learning based on their needs assessment data. Every teacher takes a needs assessment survey at the beginning when they first come to us at the new teacher orientation. Based on that feedback, then we develop what our mini sessions will be so that we can best provide them with that support. If they feel like they need help writing lesson plans, then that's what we provide. If they need help in formative assessment, how are they going to assess their students and know that they know what they're supposed to be learning, then we provide them that support. Okay. Frequent support visits from instructional coaches. So at the high school level, I go in and see the new teachers frequently. They kind of get maybe a little tired of seeing me. Oh, here comes that herder lady. But at the elementary level, Maria works closely with the other instructional coaches, and they make sure that they touch base with those first-year teachers. Robin has the privilege of being at both middle schools, so she goes in and sees those teachers also. We have regular mentoring meetings, so all of the teachers are assigned a mentor in the district. The mentor has to have been in the district for at least 3 years, and we assign those mentors to them, and then they're supposed to meet with them at least twice a month. Visits to observe quality instruction. So far, I have 11 new teachers at the high school, and so far 5 of my new teachers have been out into the building and observed at least 8 other teachers in our building so that they can get out and see what the Dodge City High School expectation is, what good teaching is. It also builds that network system for those teachers. They know, okay, I really want to get better at classroom management. These are some people I can go talk to. Okay. Differentiated and individual support based on their needs assessment again. We just really want to develop a scaffold for those teachers just like we would with our students. Where is their greatest need of growth? That's where we're going to provide them the most support. And then finally, we want to sustain their support because we want them to stay in Dodge City Public Schools. So at the end of the year, we provide a survey for those teachers so that they can identify ways that we can better meet new teachers' needs. You know, what are some areas we were weak in? Where were our strengths? What should we focus on? Second year support from instructional coaches. So last year I had 13 new teachers. So this year I mentor all of those teachers. So I meet with them frequently throughout the semester. We go through a second year teacher checklist just to continue that support system. So if they're still a little uneasy on some things that we do here in Dodge City, we want to make sure that we help support them.
As reflective practitioners, we know that there are things we can do to better serve new teachers to our district. So some of our future considerations include accommodations for teachers hired in January. Currently, when a teacher is hired in January, the mini sessions are over by then. And of course, we've already done our before school in service. So they wait until the following August then to go to those initial 3 days. So this year we are planning on doing something that's better for them. And we don't know quite what that looks like yet, but it might be sometime in December. We also had a lot of student teachers at our new teacher in service. So, you know, if we invite them back again to meet their state requirements, we don't want it to be the same for them all over again. We also want to do a better job of engaging all stakeholders. I have done my best to improve communication with administrators. Let me know how that's going, guys. And we also want that transparency with the board as well. We are going to compile and reflect on end of the year survey data. At the end of the year, we have both mentors and mentees complete a survey so that we know how we did. We also want to consider other data sources though. So we want to know if we're keeping the teachers that we're getting, because that would be another good way to tell if we're doing our job correctly. We also want to do a better job of partnering with Dr. Nance, and this year most of us attended the event that she held at Prime on the 9, and she has also been to some of the mini sessions. We feel like if we can work together, we'll be better for the teachers. Okay, and I love it when you guys can hear from teachers in our district. So of course I made a little video. And, oh. This is Mr. Randolph, and he is currently serving as a PE teacher at Will Roads and Sunnyside. So he has been a new teacher, and right now he is one of our mentors.
I can imagine that was a very challenging, obviously rewarding situation, but I was very fortunate, truly blessed to have Pam Setzkorn as my mentor. She was just, she's an amazing teacher, but she was also an amazing mentor. I could always go to her with anything that I had going on, any problem, any situation, and she was always there to give me advice. To be a listening ear. She, let's see, she was just amazing. You know, without a mentor, it would have been rough. You know, Pam was so supportive, and you know, even for evaluations, she went over it with me, had me teach her the lesson, gave positive feedback, and also ways of improving. And you know, just with all the behaviors and situations that I dealt with, she was so knowledgeable and gave me many tools out of her own classroom, out of her own pocket, to help me be successful as an educator. So now I am a mentor, no longer a mentee, of the program, and you know, it's an awesome experience for me to now be sitting on the other side of it, and to give the knowledge that I have learned from many people in the school district, but especially Mrs. Setzkorn, and how she helped me come a long way. And I'm just really grateful to be in the position to assist another teacher as they work and continue to grow professionally.
Mr. Randolph and I have one thing in common. Mrs. Setzkorn was also my mentor when I started teaching, and she really modeled what the rest of my career should look like, and I'm very thankful for that. She made a huge difference in my life and my profession. What questions may we answer at this time?
Are the mentors identified, or do they just volunteer for the program? How do they...
The state requires that we have a pool of mentors who have a professional license and have, so that means that they've taught for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And then from that pool, in the future, we will select, according to the state regulation, we will select the mentors according to the needs identified on the needs assessment.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is this different, or is it just showing the structure within what we've done before?
The structure changed a little bit because the state put out an addendum. Mm-hmm. So we had to make some changes. One of those changes is the needs assessment, and then the support beyond the second year at 443.
Very good. I like the idea of a lot of different people, you know, working with someone. Because sometimes you want to get a person, you know, different personalities do things different ways. I think that's very good.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask questions is because we have mentoring programs in our business, and when I ask questions, it's because I learn from you guys, because we need to do a better job of it. And I really like the structure, and
We can help you facilitate that.
for a small
we
fee,
have an
right? I got you. I'm with you.
Yeah, we have an
That's great.
infographic, yeah.
I would like to add that I've been impressed that they are trying to improve it all the time.
Right.
Just little changes become big changes when you look at the whole picture, and I think they've done a great job at trying to continue to make it the best it can be. So I applaud them for that.
Well, there are a lot of problems with mentoring programs. They start off really great, but it's keeping it on track all through the year. That becomes the issue, and that becomes very important.
Teacher shortage in the nation, really. It's paramount that we have a good mentor program, an induction program, because we get teachers that are not certified teachers.
Right.
They have a degree, they don't have a teaching background. So we spend a lot of our time really helping meet those new teachers that are not certified yet, meet that certification. So I just feel like without that mentor program or the induction program, those teachers would just have no support system. It's so critical for them.
And the collaboration with the HR department and Dr. Nance's efforts to bring teachers in is paramount, and that was already mentioned, but I appreciate the efforts, and the teamwork is what's going to make that successful.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
we're on a good track.
Yeah, that's very
I
good.
interviewed a middle school teacher, like Maria did, and I'm asking him about the mentor, his mentor last year, because he's a second-year teacher, and I said, would you like to be a mentor? Because he was telling me how important it was, how much he learned. I said, would you like to be a mentor? And he goes, no, and caught me off guard. And I said, why not? And he said, I don't want any of my people to leave. I love all the people I work with. And I thought, that says a lot.
Yeah.
Very good.
I apologize, this may have been mentioned. All incoming teachers or new teachers to district, this is a mandatory program, correct?
Right.
Okay.
For first-year
Or
teachers,
first,
it's state mandated.
Oh, state
In
mandated.
order for them to be licensed, they have to participate in a state-approved mentoring or induction program. So first-year teachers anywhere have
to
that
do it.
requirement. But to Dodge City, we also require all new teachers to our district be supported. And even if they're veteran teachers, they get a mentor their second year, which is one of us.
And because our district is so unique, we want all teachers to have that support.
Thank you.
Very good.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. All right, next, excuse me, approval of Communities and Schools Memorandum of Understanding.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dierksen. Communities and Schools came to the district in, you guys first got a presentation in spring of 2014. It was voted and started in August of 2014. Community Schools is a nonprofit organization that works with at-risk students. The goal is to keep them in school, get them graduated, have them make better decisions on behaviorally and just about healthy habits. They do a lot of work building up caring adult relationships with students. They also help them with marketable skills when they exit the high school post-graduation. They started in 2014 conducting surveys of students, and the students would self-mark their different decisions and habits and things that are happening. And through time, that is transformed. There was a long form and a short form, depending on how long the optional test can be done, but it's also now turned into opt-in. So parents have to sign them in order for them to do those testing. So each time that the survey period comes up, there's several different surveys that can be taken to be able to get an idea of what our community needs are, what are the kids' needs. It's a needs assessment for kids is really what it is. And so administrators will look at those different schedules, see what's best and what options, which of the surveys we want to participate in, and which ones we think we can get the most opt-in from parents. But the information, what they do is they come back, it can secure federal funds, it can secure private grant funds, state funds, in order to address different behaviors. and, or not even behaviors, but maybe like counseling services, different types of programs that would help kids to benefit towards career placements and those type of things. So Community in Schools is been a successful program statewide, and many different schools are in it, and it's helped us here too. And this is a renewal agreement for the 17-18 school year. And so we'd like to respectfully request that you approve this renewal for this year.
And am I correct that there's no cost to the district on
We have to provide space for a specialist, and then we do have the time for the surveys, et cetera, but there's no actual expenditures that we put out.
Where do they office out of?
They try a rotating office at the high school. Mhm.
Okay.
What's the caseload? Are they around 100 students, somewhere in there?
I imagine it's probably more than that.
Is it? Okay.
And we're satisfied with the work they do.
Yeah, they do. I think they're in Garden
Right.
City, Liberal. Yeah, it's in this
Good.
area for sure. And
Yeah, and they're all over the
Make sure
state too.
everybody's pleased with it.
I'll move for approval.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Jeff. All in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. I think you've got one more, the update on KESA.
I'll go nowhere, Glenn.
On Friday, we had our KESA meeting, and our district leadership team met. We went over with a representative from the Southwest Plains Regional Service Center as a facilitator for us. We went through the different rubrics that are the 5 R's that you've heard the state talk about for accreditation purposes. Reviewing the different information, the last areas, and then we had to select 2 goals areas. And the district leadership team came forward with the responsive climate and the relationships as the 2 areas are going to be the focus points. Now we will start, next time we meet, we will work on our actual goals, writing them out. We'll be visiting with the building administrators to talk to them about the initiatives that they have in the building that would fit towards those goals. The goal is not to create more work on them, it's to align it with where we're trying to go. We added Mr. Flax, I'm trying to remember his first name. Tom Flax is our last member to join our outside visiting team. And so we are complete now. We have our chair and our full team, so we're ready to go in that requirement for the state accreditation. And don't know, it's pretty general at this point, but we'll be writing goals in November.
Could I request something? And maybe at one of our lunch meetings or something, but would it be possible to get a presentation on the new accreditation system? I mean, I know we've been given some information, but just some more specifics and details as it relates to what measures standards were to be meeting. And maybe you guys already know that, so maybe I'm just speaking for myself.
Oh, that's fine.
But
That's fine.
No, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Even if we've heard it before, it wouldn't. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
As we're moving along, we can update you with where we're at, because we'll meet again before the next meeting, and we'll try to give an overview of KESA for you so that you know.
There's also nothing wrong with keeping you informed because it's still fluid in many ways. The state is still making decisions, and so it'd be nice to be able to keep making regular reports to you to let you know those changes too.
And we're right now, though, in the midst of this. This started this year, correct?
Well, and that's actually part of what we can present, because previous meeting, we kind of reviewed what is expected, and we determined that year 2 is a nice fit for us for where we're already at. So we're actually jumping in year 2 of a 5-year process. So, I mean, that's a great question and very timely. So we'll be more than happy to make a presentation and present that.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right, business services, Bill?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Dierksen. This evening, I come with some change orders. It seems like this is almost an ever meeting. I do apologize for that, but when you have the amount of construction going on, it seems like this is just part of the process that we go through. I'm going to lift up some things just so you're aware of kind of the important things I think on this. The first one for Sewell Elementary, you'll notice there's new conduit for future fiber. Sewell Northwest and Dodge City Middle School traditionally has been served by a single fiber into that 3-school area. So if there was any problem with that, we were out with 3 schools, not just one. And as part of this construction project, we're actually putting a conduit down from Sewell out to another location on United Telecom. So eventually we'll have an in and out. So if one fiber goes down, we'll still have connectivity to that 3-school project. So we think that was a good move at this point. It's not completed yet, but it will be. So we thought that was a good thing. Northwest Elementary, those are pretty normal situations. I think those are kind of self-explanatory. Miller Elementary, you notice that we did have the sewer issue on the north end of Miller Elementary. The decision was made that we were concerned about the ability to fix it and also the south end and still get school started on time. And we determined it was better to do the south end later on. I have mentioned over Christmas about 10 times, and they've come back and said, we really think we need to do this over summer so we make sure we have plenty of time. So all of the approval, if you approve tonight, will be then. That will be a summer project at Miller Elementary, and that will pretty well completely replace all the sewer lines in that building, and we're pretty excited about that moving forward. The final thing is Sunnyside. The fire alarm was included in the original project for the new areas that we built on Sunnyside, but we kind of had a hodgepodge of fire alarm systems, and district safety continues to be a concern from our department, and I think from the district. We felt that it was the appropriate time to really replace the entire fire alarm system, and it was cheaper to do it at this point than it would be in the future. So that's the reason that one will come from the capital outlay. But we think, again, that's a safety issue. So if there are any questions, be happy to address them. If not, we would appreciate the board to accept this and move the approval of this evening.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ryan and a second by Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
We have one other item here, basically Dodge City Middle School. This has been kind of an interesting thing. As we've worked, Dodge City Middle School, the HVAC is somewhat of a complex issue there, and we determined the last time we actually added these controls in, but we continually review things in our process, and they determined that we really didn't need them, that there were already adequate controls in the system, so we're asking the board to approve the elimination of them. It saves us $24,000. So it's really a good, we've been double checking on a lot of things, trying to save every dollar we can for the district, but you have to have a good project. So we would appreciate the board approving this change order this evening.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Brian, second by Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
The final thing is, as we've had additional building needs, we are coming up with additional telephone needs, and basically this is the first. There will be another one. This does not include the high school and the final additional phones for that, but it does basically provide for a number of schools, including Northwest, Sewell Elementary, Sunnyside, Miller Elementary. There are 2 phones that we are picking up at Dodge City High School, but the majority of those are going to be later, and in the amount of $28,207.02, which will be paid from capital outlay. We did agree as we went into the bond project that telephones would come out of capital outlay instead of bond proceeds, so that's the reason that is from capital outlay this evening.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All right, motion by Ryan and a second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
The final thing is a little more complicated. As you'll remember that the board did direct administration to move forward with the administration building. So this evening I bring the proposal for the architecture and engineering services for the new administration. This basically approves the design of the construction. It does mention a max amount as a percentage of the final building, but that will be actually approved by the board later on. I've talked to Tom about that. It's showing 7.5%. We do not anticipate it will be that high. The thing that our architects are dealing with is engineers are getting very expensive, whether it's a civil engineer, whether it's the HVAC engineer, electrical, that is where a lot of these fees are going. But the final fee will be less, I think, than the 7.5% as we get down to that. But this basically moves us forward on the project. I think I have mentioned to several of the board members, we did have initial discussions with a number of departments last week. There's a lot of moving parts to the administration building. There's a lot of things going to be in this, but we are doing, as the board directed us, and this basically is approving what you all indicated you wanted done at the last meeting.
You know, the north addition, I think if I remember correctly, had about 42,000 square feet. Is that correct? And there was a lot of space basically in between the Civic Center and the...
Right.
And I just want to make sure we want to build that big a building.
And I think that the direction of the board was that you wanted to look at multiple options on that, and that's
Right.
what our intention is, and we've had that discussion. We're also looking at another possibility. You'll remember on that initial, I'll call it a schematic for lack of a better word, or ground plan, a lot of storage space. You start going through this building and count the number of filing cabinets that we have and filing rooms we have. We're beginning to look at, would it be cheaper for us to put a basement area in that we could use for filing, because a basement area is probably $100 a square foot, and cost on the first or second floor is probably $225 a square foot. We're going to really look at all those kind of options, and that's what we're going to try to bring back to you. But you're absolutely right, Mr. Hires, that we intend to look at that, and our intention with the board is to really bring 2 or 3 different options, small, medium, large.
Okay.
And you can then hopefully at that point you'll have the cost estimates, you'll have what we think as a district we could do with that space, and hopefully you'll have the information that you'll be able to make a good decision at that point. Is that, I think that's the direction. If that's not the direction, we need to know, but I think that's the direction the board gave to us.
No, that's great. It just said, the only thing it said design and construction, proposal for design and construction. I just want to make sure we decided on a final before we designed it and constructed it.
We haven't figured on the final design. That's going to come back to you. As I tell some people, I just work here.
Right.
Well, I want to reiterate, when I spoke, I reminded Tom that we wanted to look at multiple plans, and we've specifically talked about that.
Right, okay.
So, yeah.
The thing that's interesting about this, a lot of times when you start a project, and I've been doing this for a lot of years, people don't think it's going to happen, so they kind of fluff you off. And I don't know how to say that, and you're very serious about doing it, but you kind of get fluffed off until it's down the project. Well, down the project, then making changes is really difficult. We met with a lot of department heads this last week. We weren't getting fluffed off. People realized we're going to do something. Right. And so people are taking it very seriously. Our intention is to come back. We're as we said, this was not maybe the 10,000 foot flyover, but maybe it was a 2,000 or 3,000. We're going to get down to the details on this. The discussion is where we're going to greet people. What should that reception area look like? How does these things go together? What departments ought to be next to each other? We're having those discussions again. Again, it's cheap to change plans. It's expensive after you build a building if it's not done right. So we're trying to be moving forward, not let grass grow. We don't want to go so fast we miss anything. And that's kind of the dilemma that we're in, but I think we're doing a pretty good job with that.
Sounds good.
Very good.
Any more questions for Bill?
Is that your motion, Jeff?
That's my motion. I make a motion to approve the proposal for whatever Bill said.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Ryan.
Thank you.
Got a thumbs up from Tracy, 5-0. Thanks, Bill. All right, Dr. Dierksen.
Thank you very much. I have a very important document, excuse me, I'd like your support on, and that came from the chamber meeting that was held last month. It's a community-wide effort. The support letter goes through the city of Dodge City, and it comes from several governmental entities, and it asks for support. This issue is a national issue, and it definitely has an impact on our community and our school system. And I've provided a lot of information. The document that I provided was given to us at that meeting. And the letter is just a sample. There will be individual letters sent to each congressman. And you're also invited to include individual letters if you would choose to do so on a personal basis. Tonight, I ask for your support for us talking to our representatives. And I would just share as a add moment. Mr. Hammond and I met today with Boyd Orr, our state representative for the south part of our district. Had an outstanding conversation with him. First thing I mentioned that is near and dear on my radar, and he reflected a very similar attitude and a very shared concern. And I was real impressed, and I think Bill was as well, with his efforts and his intentions to help us out on this issue. And so that's very positive. And he reflected indications that there were similar thoughts from other representatives as well, and thought that we had a good chance of, and of course, the caution was, this is also a federal issue. Right. And so we have to look at it that way. But anyway, it was very encouraging to hear his support as well. So I ask for the board support, and following that, tomorrow morning, bright and early, I will share this information with the city, because they're trying to put this all together and get this information sent on. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in complete support. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ryan, second by Jeff. All in favor? 5-0. Tracy's given the thumbs up. Okay. Next.
Okay. The next item has to do with our continued efforts with the public library and the Kansas Heritage Center. As you know, this has been an ongoing project, and Brandon is here tonight, I noticed, and the head librarian for the public library. He and I have had some very cordial conversations, and he's reported to his board, and I've reported to you. Most recently, I shared the information with the cabinet, and they brought up some points that I thought were worth passing on, and then he's had a chance to respond as well. I've tried to share that information with you, and I wanted to bring it to the board tonight to see where you're at with the transfer considerations. I come into it new and not knowing everything that has transpired. It just comes down to the dollars, is what it comes down to, because I do believe the wheels have been put in motion for the Kansas Heritage Center to have been moved to the public library. I think that is kind of where that is at. That being said, we have had good relations with the Kansas Heritage Center. We've been their provider, and we have a relationship with them that I hope doesn't perish. And I think the library wants that to continue as well. And that being said, there's a lot of things that still have to be done. And I think Brandon did an excellent job of bringing up many of the points, as well as I think we've brought up some of what we're concerned about as well. And I really wanted to hear from the board, any discussion you would like to have, any of the points that you want to make, and maybe give me some direction. And I'll ask first to hear from you, and then if I have any clarifications I want, I'll bring that up.
But, okay, I'll start, I guess. So there were two areas, and I don't know if concern is the correct word, and I did read the email with the justifications, what I thought those were points well taken. But one of the areas was the continued support of $10,000 per year. Did I read that right, Dr. Dierksen?
Yes, sir.
Now I'm messed up on my pages here. I can't find the exact language. And I don't know how many years that was for.
It was to be in the contract for to be reviewed every 10 years.
Every 10 years, okay. So it'd be at least a 10-year commitment. Right. Okay, so, and obviously I'm open, but that one concerns me a little bit. And then the other one was the staffing. So if I read it correctly, absorbing those salaries at the library would be difficult. But I just don't know about paying for employees that really aren't our employees at that point, I guess. And maybe I'm not understanding that, just
No.
paying the salary for someone that's not really our employee.
I believe the original intent was to keep them as our employee, but I think that it was brought up in the cabinet meeting that brings up some great concern as far as liability and other issues with pay and benefits, et cetera. It was mentioned that maybe we provide a lump sum for what that would be. Which brings up another point of where I was going with that, because originally I think there had been original talk before I was here of 2 to 5 years that we do that with staffing. And then there's been talk of 2 to 4 years, and there was a compromise of 3 years, and I've tried to stick with 2 years. I just think there's a lot of question about that, and I hate extending our commitment for something that is no longer with us, not knowing what our situation is going to be. And I mean, there's arguments on both sides of the plate, but I feel like if we're going to transfer this, then I think the consideration ought to be to complete the transfer. And I want to point out in their defense that 10,000 commitment doesn't start until after we've finished the coverage of the employees. That's the way I understand it. And so that would be separate from the payment of the employees.
The actual transfer would not take place until June 30 of 2019 because they've got construction they need to do in their lower level before it would be ready for the transfer.
I think that's right.
How does it work? I mean, the language is staff will be under supervision of the library director, but positions are subjected to school district personnel policy.
And that was where we had the concern.
Right.
And that's why I think it was suggested that we just provide a lump sum.
Well, I'm just thinking about, I mean, are you, when you provide a lump sum, are you, because they'll be working in the library, what's the differences between the personnel policies? I mean, are there different, I mean,
yeah.
Working for somebody else and under the policies, under the handbook of, another entity.
Yeah.
That's just an interesting.
It is.
Dichotomy there that.
I've only had to go down twice and ask them to turn their stereo down, so I don't.
But I mean, the personnel policies of a library in a school district, there's got to be some differences. I mean, your handbook and our handbook is like this thick. Yours is like this, probably. So it's just the language. If we get into a personnel issue, that could cause some issues.
Good evening, Tammy.
Good evening, sorry.
No, you're fine. We're just discussing my item on the transfer of the Kansas Heritage Center, and basically to bring you up to date, just going over some of these points, because I think there's a process that's in place, and I think we just are trying to fine tune some of the very minutia points, but that actually have a price tag. I mean, I think that's what I'm actually trying to do from my perspective, is to make sure the board is aware of the expenses that the board would be making a commitment to on that. And the one thing that we all want, I think, is for the Kansas Heritage Center to continue. And the only option that would really be available as we move forward, and Dr. Hammond's, or Mr. Hammond's last conversation was about the new administration building. It would cost money to build more space. I mean, we just pointed that out. And the library has space. And so there is that advantage there, and they seem to have an interest in the Heritage Center coming to the library. So
well, I'm really sold on it moving to the library. I think that would be fantastic. It's just, how we go about it and make it feasible for both entities.
I think it's important that we hear from every person on the board where they stand on this, and how they feel about these different points that have kind of raised a red flag, and if we have suggestions on how to address them.
Okay, I started, so I'll go ahead and open up. Yeah, and I would like to preface my comments by saying I agree. Heritage, it's an excellent resource for the community. I commend the library for wanting to take that on, make it a part of what do they do. I think that's a natural fit, as Jeff alluded to. But my stance, at least as of right now, would be that if we're going to transfer, we just transfer. I just don't want to be responsible for a program, whether financially or otherwise, that really is no longer ours, I guess. So that would be my
So
thoughts.
just to clarify that you wouldn't necessarily be in support of help with salary or with the $10,000 a year in support?
No, I mean, because there's other educational entities in Dodge. I mean, and we're not going to go and support that for $10,000 over 10 years. So, I mean, that would be my concern. So I would prefer not to do that today. This is discussion.
Right.
So it sounds like we'll probably pursue this. That's just what I think right now.
Okay.
And I'm in agreeance with that. I mean, if we're going to be putting out money, which when I look at everything we're putting out, I didn't see that we were getting much in return. I agree with that. So if we're going to be putting money out, I think it's something that we should keep and have a part of us. And I think it'd also be something great. I know it would cause more space to be added, and we'd have to look at that if that's even viable to do. But it's also something that when people come there, they're not only being able to utilize the Kansas Heritage Center, but also within our school district and also with the Learning Center. So there's 3 different things that meet those public needs in one entity. So I agree, if we're going to financially be invested, we might as well have it.
I totally disagree, because $10,000 is, our kids use that Heritage Center a lot, and if we can continue and make it a viable entity down there for $10,000 a year, that's a bargain. That's a bargain. I mean, there are, you're right, Ryan, there are other educational things in town, but this is something that's been near and dear to this heart for, to this school district for decades. And we transfer it to the library that wants it, that will work hard at growing it, making it viable. I think for $10,000, basically $10,000 for 10 years, that's a bargain. That's a real bargain. And but like I say, I'm just one vote.
So what's your thoughts on the salary?
Well, it says after salary support ends. When does it end?
Well, that's another discussion that between 2 and 3 years.
Okay, well,
That the
I mean,
district-
and once again, the library has the same budget problems we do. And we get them started, get them on the way, and then we keep the Kansas Heritage Center. And I just think it's a bargain. And that's.
I would piggyback off of Tammy's comments. If it has been a part of the district for a long time, and there's people that are really passionate about it. So then I guess I would make the argument in the same vein as Tammy. Then let's just look at keeping it. Let's go that route if we want to do that. If we're going to make a financial investment, and it truly is a part of the district, has been for years and years and years, part of our overall mission, and let's see what we can do to put it wherever we might be moving. So,
Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Tammy. If we're going to spend the money, let's keep it with the district.
How about you, Tracy? We can't hear you.
she hung up.
No, she's there.
She's there.
Just talking to herself.
Oh.
And one thing, guys, there's a difference between a financial investment there's a difference in financial investments. I mean, you know, you're talking about, if we generate space for that, you're talking about $1 million. I'm just throwing a figure out. And then I'm talking about 200,000. And then we're done after 10 years, after 13 years.
Well, we can have,
I mean,
they'll look into it like we always
Tracy,
have.
did you want to
We have them
comment
look
or
into-
no?
yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the possibilities for the board, first of all, from my eyes on the issue with employment was kind of like yours. To me, the first question was not whether we support the salaries or not, but if we're going to pay the salaries, I'd rather, if we're going to pay the salaries that are going to supervise, give them the money, let them put it on payroll and be done with it. I didn't want us to create another situation where we have responsibility, but we don't have the supervision. That was the issue on salaries. You know, besides whether it's 2 years, 3 years, that's a whole different question. It's how you handle that. One option the board does have at this point, you've just hired an architect to look at a new administration bill. You could come back and ask, what's it cost to do it? What would it be? And then you'd have real numbers to work with. We don't have that today. We could do that. So it just, again, whatever the board wants to do, we will proceed with that understanding. So.
I think real numbers are nicer to work with than guesstimations. I mean, and not knowing. I mean, it may be $1 million, it may not, I don't know.
How many square feet do we have here?
We have a lot of square feet. One of the other issues that I raised as we did, because when we earlier talked about, you know, potentially moving it, how many square feet of storage do we really need? We have a lot of items in the Heritage Center today that we basically keep. The digitalization's made really unnecessary. We have tons of Life magazines downstairs. Those are available online. Do you really want to spend any money, either us or the library for that matter, keeping copies of something that you can access on a computer online? That's a discussion that needs to be had, and in this agreement, one of the concerns I had is somebody needs to make those kind of decisions. I'm surely not qualified to do that. That probably is bringing somebody in who could really designate and say, this is a critical piece of paper that's worth keeping. This is the kind of things you should, these things anymore, just, you know, the world has changed. And you need to make those decisions even to know how much space you do need. And I had all those numbers. I didn't bring them with me, but I can get you the numbers of how much space we have for the different areas. But you see what I'm trying to say? I mean, I think it would be not in the best interest of either us or the library just to keep everything we've got. I think we need to really say, where do we need going forward?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the world has shifted, and I don't know. That would just be my thought at this point.
My basic stance is I don't want to do anything bricks and mortar that is not, you know, we got to replace this administration building.
Yep.
That has to be done.
Yes.
That's non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned. But I don't want to spend any more money on bricks and mortar that doesn't deal with kids. And I know kids go to it, but I mean, we're a growing community. We're going to need every inch of space. If we're going to put money, let's put money in classrooms. That's my basic fundamental belief.
And one of the things that Jenny Chin, who we've talked to, indicated to us is the change in what they're even doing. You know, the State Historical Society Museum is not that old a building, but they would not build the same building today. The personnel in the way, more people are at the State Historical Society Museum, but they're doing it electronically. It's a different world. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I think whether the Heritage Center's here or the library, I think we need to look at how can it best serve the future. We have a very proud past. That doesn't mean we need to keep doing what we've been doing. That's just my thought. But we could definitely we could come back with some real estimates if you want to. As you know, Tammy suggested, we could put that together and say, here's an option. Don't have to do it, but we could sure do that as part of that plan.
That'd be great.
Did you ever get Tracy?
She doesn't want to speak. She's talking, but we can't hear her. So.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
I wasn't for sure if I was muted, so I was being super quiet. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have any comments to make.
Okay.
Okay, so I would appreciate it. I don't know, would the rest of you guys like him to at least look into it?
Because tonight, I would just make the transfer, but yeah, let's look into some of this other stuff and continue the discussion and see where we're at.
We began this conversation.
Step up to the mic, please.
Good evening. Thanks, everybody. We did begin this conversation in January, and this isn't something we're going to make a renovation, whether the Heritage Center is a part of it or not. The October timeframe is what we were hoping to have the work and the recommendation completed by. So this isn't something we want to go on forever because we are going to make some changes. We need to start planning that. We did have some of the other concerns. The concern about staffing, my board said the exact same thing. This was a recommendation with the staffing being paid by the school district working at the library that began with Alan's conversation in January through May. We share the same concerns, and we do see some issues with that. We didn't know what kind of financial position, and then the recommendation by the cabinet earlier or last week to do a lump sum made more sense to us as well. So that's a shared concern.
Maybe something, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brandon, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Maybe something we wanted to look at instead would be like a sliding scale. The first year we would give X number of dollars, and then it would go down over a period of time. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possible. Just another direction of the board.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I guess one other thing on funding, you said if we're going to pay for it anyway, we might as well just keep it here. Well, $10,000 a year is quite a bit less than what's budgeted currently. And a lot's changed over the last 50 years. When this thing was established, federal dollars paid for the Kansas Heritage Center. That dried up a long time ago. Then the state started funding some of the Kansas Heritage Center out of the Historical Society line. Our understanding is that's not around anymore either. So you have a space need, but also funding is completely on the local level at this point. And that's why we really support the library being. I think this makes a lot of sense, the purpose of the Heritage Center going over to the library, because we can add access beyond what you can here. And again, it is local tax dollars that are paying for this. So it makes a lot of sense to us. We want to continue the conversation. And again, we do have the space for it. And any questions you have, be happy.
One thing that Brandon kind of touched on is the availability. The library is open evenings, open on the weekends, so patrons would have access to it where they don't here, unless we were to expand our hours for that. So.
And the ongoing support was during our conversations with the work group, there was talks from your end about, well, it'd be nice to be able to support whenever we have our annual tours by the grade school children. And right now you pay for subs to come in and to support somewhere along those lines. And that's really where that conversation started. $10,000 a year might not be the final number that our board's comfortable with, but we think some kind of ongoing investment, even if it's $5,000 to $7,000 a year, that does a lot to keep you engaged and keep you a part of the conversation, as opposed, and I just have some concerns that what's this going to look like in 5 years if you just hand it over and we haul everything across the street. I think there might be more value in it later on. I think it might strengthen our relationship later on and make sure that kids are still coming over annually or maybe even more often.
Bill, I know the line item says $200-some thousand, but what's the actual cost?
I had that. I did not bring it this evening, but I'll be happy to provide that to the board. Basically, the direction the last couple of years is we did not fill the director's position. We did not fill Dave's position. We've cut down on what we were doing. So I'll be happy to give what the budget's been and then what the actuals have been for the last few years. That's not a problem. We did that. We provided it. But we have not spent the budget for a number of years there. Might just add one more thing. The state has cut down on the funding as the State Historical Society has been cut by the state. They have also cut our percentage. And I'm going to be very candid, I think if we are the library want to get more state funding, we're going to change what we're doing. Because if you look at the state library or the State Historical Society, they are approaching their thing entirely differently than they did traditionally. And I think Jenny Chin would be very open to that, but it's going to have to be something different. If we're talking about money to digitize things that we only have, or be available. I think the state's interested in that. I don't think they're interested in continuing to support what we traditionally have done. Not that we did bad things. I'm not saying that at all. It's just the world has shifted, and I think we need to get with that. That's one partner that we might want to contact and talk to. Another partner that we've had is the Community Foundation has also paid money to us, given us grants to bring in outside school districts into the, the tours that we've had. And they've been very, very supportive, felt like it was a very good program, Pat Hammock, so that's another partner we've had. There might be some partners whether we do it or the library does it, probably need to have conversations with partnerships. When Dr. Dierksen and I were talking to Jenny Chen, in about 5 minutes, she listed about 15 partners that we ought to go talk to. What is the future as our partnerships? She said that is the way of the future. That's the way you survive. It's partnerships working collaboratively. That's a whole different discussion than we've even had at this point. Again, that's if the library's going to do it, and they were
Absolutely.
But that's, and she mentioned of all things, and some of you all know the experience we have with Fort Hays and the community college and beyond different is, but she said Fort Hays is having some definite things in Hispanic studies and stuff. She said with your community, that'll be part, is there a role they could play? Is there something we could, it was just interesting. In about 15 minutes, Jenny really opened up. I suddenly realized I wasn't even asking some of the right questions about the Heritage Center. Just information.
Dr. Dierksen, with Brandon's comment about the time frame in mind, were you anticipating bringing this back for a vote with our second meeting in October? Or?
I was at least anticipating on bringing real numbers, to coin a phrase that I heard here, as far as how much space we think we need and how many dollars we think that would cost compared to the budget that Bill can look up and see what we're spending now, so that we can make this, I started out the conversation with the idea that we are moving there. We just need to work out some details, and maybe we're not moving there, but maybe we are. Let's look at the real numbers and let the board decide, because I do believe it's fair. They've been working on this apparently for almost a year now, and we need to make a decision and move forward. So, to be fair to everyone, so.
And I believe our board meets the day after your next board meeting.
All right. So 2 weeks from today, we'll have a meeting and we'll make that an agenda item and present that information.
Does that work for you, Brandon?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That meeting's at Ross, isn't it?
Yes, it
Just
is.
for public information. Brandon? Noon, 2 weeks from
At
today.
Ross.
And I think it's at Ross Elementary.
Our next board meeting, yeah. Okay. Does
All right,
anybody-
glad I could clear that up and we can move on.
That's what we got you here for.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, anybody have any other comments on that item? Oh, okay, moving on then, Board of Education member district responsibilities, Park and Rec. Does anybody know of anything that we need to know on that? No. Okay, Bright Beginnings, Tracy, do you have anything on that? Debbie's here, we can call on her. Okay. Is there anything Bright Beginnings that we need to know?
I'm trying, guys.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Let's put this out to the side. We are in the process of preparing for review. We are in the third year of a 5-year grant, and with the new Head Start program performance standards, they have also, the Office of Head Start has put together a new monitoring system that they call Aligned Monitoring System 2.0. And so our staff has been going through some training with that, and as a staff, we're also looking at program policies and procedures, job descriptions, work plans, and getting those in order. Sort of like with KISA, one of the big movements is looking at community assessments, your program self-assessment, short-term and long-term goals, and then your data to see if what we're doing is actually doing what we said we would do. And then communicating with our community, all the stakeholders, our students and families, our staff, to see what we can do to meet the needs of our community, our students and families, and then again use that data to adjust. So that's our one of our big focus right now. We also have, with that review, they've let us know that instead of maybe the old way of going through and having a lot of checklists, that they're actually going to come and they're going to interview our governing board, which would be our Board of Education, our Policy Council, our staff, our families, and to see what does our community know about our program, what do we know about our community and the goals that our program has, and let us sort of talk through what we know about the program. So more of a narrative versus a checklist of items. And so we're excited about that opportunity to show off what we have here in Dodge City. But it's also a little bit anxious because we haven't been through this before. But again, I think it'll be a good thing. And a lot of what we're seeing in the monitoring system reminds me a lot of what the state's going through with KISA and what our community's going through with KISA. We did have some celebration news. We have a monitoring system with our teachers called CLASS, and we just finished our first round, and the scores came back that just show that our teachers ranked above or scored above the national average, and so that just sort of helps support some of the things that we're doing positively that would engage students and the teacher, the interaction between them. We've been at work in getting our program parent meetings going, and so we've had a successful STEM night with Exploration Place, and then with community partners coming in and doing a safety presentation. And then tomorrow we start the first of our pumpkin patch visits, so the early Head Start, our birth to 3 families are going to the Funny Farm Pumpkin Patch tomorrow, and then on Saturday it'll be with our preschoolers and their families. And then we also have Jessica McGee, who's a music teacher. This will be the first time that we've had that at Bright Beginnings, and so next Tuesday we have our regularly scheduled parent meeting, and we'll start that off with a family music extravaganza. So we're looking forward to sharing that time with families and introducing music into their homes as a continuation of what we're doing in schools.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Lisa, very quickly, just so everyone's aware, with Tracy's absence, I was invited to attend the Policy Council meeting. It was their first one of the year. Tammy Nedler had asked me to participate, so I did. I did attend. So it was an excellent meeting. They chose chair, vice chair, secretary, went through policies, procedures, expectations, so it was an excellent meeting. And with Tracy being out for the next meeting, I'll attend that one as well.
Okay,
So just
thanks,
FYI.
Ryan. Thank you for that.
You know.
Okay, special ed, anything you want to report?
Well, just what most of you know, Dennis is suspended with pay, and the KASB has come in and done a preliminary investigation. John Maple is the interim director. Met with John a couple of times to talk about where we are, and how things are going. He's, I think John's doing, under the circumstance, an excellent job. The audit that we are waiting on won't be completed until probably first or second week of November. But the KASB investigation, we will have a report on it, I would assume, sometime next week. So we're moving, we're progressing through this, but we've got to get to the final audit done. And one thing to realize is we're doing 2 years worth of audits, not just one. And so it takes more time, and it's going to be quite expensive, but it's something that we have to do, and have to then the board will have to make a decision about going forward. So it's a interesting situation, to say the least, and it's not going to be resolved as fast as I'd like for it to be.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks for all your extra work on that. Legislative.
Yeah, I'm gonna
We
punt
had a
to
big
Dr.
week.
Dr. Dierksen.
All right.
Thank you.
I think the most important legislative news is the fact that the Supreme Court did rule for the 5th time that the Kansas school finance formula is inadequate and inequitable, and directed a little different timeline than what they've done in the past, but they did direct arguments to be made in April, with the idea that it wasn't strung out until the very end, June 30th, and then the threat of not being able to start a school year. So I think that was the intention of that. The real concern is, will this become a battle with the legislature and the courts again, or will they respond after being told 5 times the same thing? And then the other remaining question is, how much more, as far as the equitability part, which is up in the air. I think the adequacy is also important, it can't be overlooked, and fairness in all. So I hope that the legislature responds in a positive fashion to that. I'm sure there will be pushes and forces otherwise. Bottom line is, it all has to come from somewhere. And I think that has to be considered as well. So very interesting, though, for the 5th time, they ruled in the way that they did.
It was a very strong, I mean, there was no.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It was unanimous.
And
Both
one
counts.
comment that was made by KASB was how unusual it was for them to have that date set in advance of when the briefs were due.
Yes.
That was very unusual for the
Yes.
court to require, so.
A good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. You bet.
All right, capital outlay, we don't have anything in the calendar. Kansas Heritage Center, we've already gone over that. And who's reviewing?
Yeah, I
bills
don't know
in
who's up next
November?
month.
Do
I'm
you
not
know?
for sure.
I'm not sure, I don't. Do you know who's supposed to review bills for November? Barbara, okay. We might, when's our first meeting in November? Will it be after the election? We might need to have
Will it?
somebody else review bills.
No.
No, she'll
because she
be
hadn't-
seated.
Oh, she serves
Yeah.
until January, never mind, my bad.
Not
Never
until
mind.
the second
We're
week in
good.
January. yeah.
Okay, all right, so we'll have Barbara review bills for the November meeting. So announcements, Monday, October 23rd, board lunch meeting at Ross at noon. Wednesday, November 8th, American Education Week celebration at the Civic Center. If I might jump back one day, Tuesday, November 7th is Election Day. Everybody, please go out and vote, whether you vote for those of us running or not. We ask that you vote. Monday, November 13th, Board of Education meeting here in the Austin Boardroom at 6. And then Monday, November 27th, board lunch meeting at Sunnyside at noon. Do we have any items for future board meetings or additional discussion? No?
Just what I mentioned about the accreditation.
Yep.
Yep, I have that written down.
Okay.
Definitely talk about
And
that.
we have no executive sessions scheduled for this evening, so take it away, Mrs.
I
West.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Ryan, all in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Tracy. Take it easy. Be safe.